what you were expected to cover, then I hope that you've done that. Oh dear. Okay, so currently on Sakai, this is something else that is there. I'll take you quickly to your site. This is field 304 main campus. There we go. Then we'll go to your course outline, which is at overview, so it's easily accessible. And there it is. After you know the first 3 topics on the authority of the state or government, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, trying to show you that government has a certain legitimacy that it gets from the individuals in their language who hand over a certain right to government. So government now has a certain kind of authority. For Locke, for example, to enforce laws, to make laws, to adjudicate when there is a confliction or a confusion of the laws. So that is for Locke. Okay? These 3 folks that we studied, plus even Rawls, whom we saw later, have a certain contractarian posturing to human society and its organization. So the first 3 sessions interrogated the legitimacy of the state. The second 3, when I say sessions, the first 3 discussions. And for that one, we took each one of them. So Hobbes, we took as a whole topic. We looked at Locke, and then Rousseau was a build-up to that. So we didn't, what is the point, deal with it extensively. But that is why the content was meant to be augmented with what general research, library work. If you go through the course outline, you see I stress that so that you have the right orientation. You're supposed to do some reading of the content yourself. You see, lecture, group work, student library work, general research. These are all this. That's the method of instruction. That's the contract we have together to help you. So you get to read so much, and then the lecture period helps to keep it in focus and keep you well informed. So if you haven't done some of the readings around, the lecture will be useful for just the discussion we have on it. But if you do your reading, then it beefs it up and puts flesh to what has been discussed. So the first 3 sessions were on that. Then the second set of questions that we engaged, if you like, for the period, examine the relation between the individual and human society. Because a certain individual in the preceding sessions is said to have handed over all or part of her entitlement to a certain entity called the state or a government or what have you, to administer on his or her behalf for certain reasons that these folks gave, depending on who you were reading, Hobbes, Locke, or what have you, gave reasons why he thinks that arrangement worked fine. Okay. So the second stream of questions interrogated that. What is this relationship supposedly between the individual and a so-called human society, state, collective, whatever, which gives the collective a certain upper hand of a kind over the individual, or something which makes the individual so powerful that I'll take back my authority if you don't do what I told you to do. So the interrogation, the question set here from Taylor through Miles, was to attend to that supposed relation. And we saw what Taylor said. We're not going to redo that in his critique of what he called anatomistic posturing. And then how Miles's paper even built on that to interrogate the very language of the debate. But the substantive debate was between a view that you would want to label as a communitarian, advisedly, of course, and then one that is supposedly individualistic. That was the second stream of questioning in our course, Social and Political Philosophy. Then we moved on to the third stream of questions, covered over a period of course. Should I obey the state? Here, it is not a proposal telling us how the state is organized and what the basis of that is. That was in the first stream. We are not interrogating the relation between the 2 supposed parties, no. The third stream of questions is questioning the so-called legitimacy that we have given to the state. Can that be? Can the state have any moral, authority over me. Look at the language. It's moral authority. I'm talking about the ethical grounds, the legitimacy. You saw what Wolf said. Wolf said they cannot, Robert Paul Wolf here, doesn't think so. And not, it is not because he wants an orderless society. No, he's talking about the legitimacy, the order in society which he would prescribe. He's not anarchist. As he says, the responsible man is not anarchic. Yet the paper is in defense of anarchism. So it is philosophical anarchism he's dealing with. We can have a state organization if, there we go, we choose to, we who autonomous, right thinking, morally apt human beings are responsible for how they conduct themselves. They shouldn't delegate that to a certain authority and blame the state that the state says so, or it's the state that must do this. And you are morally autonomous. You are an autonomous being, meaning if you're a human being of the right type, not a baby, not a mad person, then you should be accountable for how you conduct your life, morally speaking. And therefore, you cannot delegate that authority to the state, and so that under the guise of it's an authority that said I should do it, then you don't want to be accountable for what you should have done. Okay, so he argues that way to question the moral legitimacy of the state, and then that ties in well. Remember, his react somewhat to Rousseau. Okay, so we see the build up from there, and we see Plato's Crito. Some say Socrates' Crito, the Socrates in the Crito, who would not disobey the state. Not because he feels the state is perfect, no, but he doesn't want to undermine the authority of the state insofar as he has implicitly contracted, you see, and enjoyed the benefits that the state gave him. So his so-called wrong sentencing. So he will not undermine the state. And so he thinks that the legitimacy of the state is unparalleled and must not be run down. But our friend King, Martin Luther King Jr., thinks otherwise. The laws are unjust and they must be disobeyed. In fact, there's a moral obligation on you to disobey it. And you see something like what the other gentleman is opting for, that you don't obey because the law says so. You should subject it to scrutiny and make sure that you are convinced, morally speaking or ethically speaking, as a rational human being who is freely able to choose and knows right from wrong as an autonomous. We see how we are arguing. You should be able to interrogate what the state says. And if it is morally wrong to call another human being an animal by the way you are behaving, and you see the law, well, the law endorses that, you tell yourself, well, the law is wrong. So you have an obligation then to correct the law. Except that King, like we saw, advises what? A civil way of what? Disobeying. If you got those, then you see the line of reasoning for those stream of lectures. We took us now to, if we assume that there is a state, that's an assumption from our discussion so far, that has an authority to determine how my resources should be administered. Resources including my very time, my very energy, my very body. That's the property. I mean, you try to commit a suicide and it doesn't succeed. The state will take you on. It's your own body, but you are no longer yours. You belong to the state. Okay. And so it's just a very trivial example. I like chicken. God forbid suicide for anyone who's contemplating. I don't know what is in the other one, so don't think suicide. But just to give an example to show you that your own salary that you've worked for and earned, the state takes a tax from it. You want to call someone, the state says, if you are calling someone, give me 20 pesos from the money you are using to call someone. I mean, it can get frustrating sometimes. How does this so-called entity that has some kind of authority that some people claim we have wielded to, you see how I'm speaking, how does it then ensure that the resources are justly distributed? Because everybody has now gone to put their resource before the state. Their right, their entitlement, their right to self-defense, they haven't given away, of course. But they cannot determine what is the just way of meting out, a commensurate punishment for whatever has been done against them. Okay, you don't have that right. You have given it to someone to do that, at least from law's perspective. So, are we going to have a just system? Who is going to ensure that? That is what takes us to the third. Was it the third? I think, yeah. Let's see. So we have done the first stream, authority of the state, social contract. Then the second stream, the relation between the two. Then the third stream, should I obey? And there we go, the socioeconomic one, how the social and economic benefits and burdens should be shared is what formed the crust of our discussion on roles. And there again, for that one, we focused on roles in anticipation that the class will read around the two extremes again to help their own understanding of what roles was doing. And I think we had a very fruitful, very, very fruitful discussion for both campuses on that. I'm just hoping that from here, you would also tell me what you saw if you did the further reading advice in the Communist Manifesto and also the Libertarian Manifesto as a brush up to fill in any gaps that you thought you saw in Rawls's justice as fairness. If you didn't, because you thought you had done all the work there, at least let's know what you have seen in the concept and practice of democracy, whose readings are clearly stated there. And Gyekye's chapter 4 of the tradition and modernity is not something you struggle to find. It was there. Dials on democracy is accessible. I focused on the chapter 4. I gave you that to look at. I think also the chapter 12. And then there's Joseph say, at least any one of these you would have looked at. Some of you are asking me, Doc, we haven't seen any slides. Please, which one should we read? I said, these people don't want to be whimed of babysitting. And in level 300 second semester, the second semester is left with 1 week, 2 hours with you next week. And you are now at level 400. Well-bred, mature brother or sister in the Lord. You see, you should be able to think and create a long essay. You should be able to extract and put together content to help your level 100 if you're a national service teaching assistant. You see, you should be able to put together slides. So at this level, when you are given an outline and you are told that, oh, this is what we are going to discuss, and you know that you are meeting the lecturer for an interactive session, you are still not going to be expecting all the time. It's not something that is difficult for us to do. I have more than 45 slides, like I did with the others. But we have to learn to help you wean yourself off. So I was watching. You've done an IE. Let's see the last topic in the course that will be done over a period because it's quite extensive. And I'm expecting that people would have read. So let me hear from you. If you haven't, we will end the session. And it will not be in anger. No, not at all. It will just be to give you time to go and do it and then come and answer questions that I can set up for you in class to do. You see, so that I'll help you. I told the city campus the same thing. I'll help you to get an A for your mother and father, or your auntie, or guardian, or guy, or lady. See, I'll help you do that. So let's hear from you or what you saw in any of these papers in anticipation of today's class. Once I will share what I did earlier. Okay. So let me see your hands if you have anything to say. I'll wait for the hands quickly, please. Else I'll just, like I did with City. Let me just, okay, Joseph Anderson, please go ahead, sir.
Okay, Doc, please, good
afternoon. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, madam. Please, my reading, I read on the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx.
Very good. Tell us what you saw.
For my reading, and what I picked from it was the initial stages of the reading. I got to know about two terms that were used, and that was the communist and the socialist. According to the reading, like initially these two terms were they were not clearly defined, so they were considered to be separate
I don't know if the break is from my end or yours, but if it's from yours, then you would want to move around just a little bit more.
That's seeking.
My brother, we are having breaks in what you are saying, please. Can you move around just a little bit? Okay, so that so it
And
can
please,
be
is it
still.
better now?
Yes, it's better for me. I don't know about the others. But go ahead.
It's better now. Okay. Okay. So please, as I was saying, in my reading on the Communist Manifesto, I came across two terms that were used, and that was the communist and the socialist. According to the reading, they were like these two terms initially they were not clearly spelled out, clearly defined, so they were considered to be two separate terms. Despite the fact of they considered to be two separate terms, they all sought one thing, and they were seeking for something beyond the current state of happiness or beyond the status quo. Because in the status quo, it was a stratified society by the capitalists, and these capitalists they were like people who they owned and controlled the private means of production, and the communists were seeking to abolish this stratified society or to abolish the private ownership of and means of production so as to create a classless society. So that was the whole, from what I understood, it revolved around that idea to create a classless society, which the capitalist society has created.
Very good. Thank you very much. At least we got a gist from that to add to what we know already, so that the posture was to neutralize, so to speak. So in the past or in the opposing system where there look to be some champions of society, the rich, the affluent, the what have you, rich, versus those who are nobodies and then those who are in them in between. You know, these people's orientation, what your friend says is that the orientation of the opposing view was to neutralize that so that there isn't any class, high class, middle class, and low class, and non-class. If you just got this, you don't need to know all the intricacies, the technicalities. You may want to learn that in economics or something else, but you just have a fair idea of what the communist posture was. And then you can now see why Rawls was carefully trying to meet each one or each extreme, you know, with his theory of justice. It's only just that so and so and so and so and so. You meet the difference principle as well as the equality principle. Thank you very much, sir. That was a good start. May I have another input? So he wanted to give us input. You want to continue, sir?
No, please, Doc, I'm done.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
That was good. Now, so your friend just helped us. So someone may not have looked at anything Communist Manifesto, you see, but this is a good, it's just a gist, but it helps someone. I mean, we are almost 100 plus now, okay? You can help about 30 people with this. So they will know, communists. No. Oh, okay, those are the people who want to, they don't want too many, champion. Some people are rich and some are poor at the expense of others. So they are asking that we look at the collective and make sure that we don't have too many your friend says stratified society. Affluent is Legonites, and then I won't mention any other community. I don't want trouble, but you know that if you live at I live at a certain area, so let me use mine. So East Legon versus maybe Fanchinico people, because supposedly if you go to a certain place, even the tomatoes that is sitting on the table, I mean the same tomatoes or better still the same bottle of beverage of a kind that you would buy at that place at X amount. You go to this other society, I don't know if the same thing or the same company, the same product. But if it goes to this place, they sell it at a different price because of the kind of people that live there. The communist says we will want to break all these unnecessary divisions in society that always comes at the expense. See where their diagnosis comes at the expense of some other human persons. Okay, that is fairly a good input from our friend. Thank you very much. Let's take someone else quickly, please. You can take your input from any of the I don't want to restrict because we had all of those open. So someone might have felt that, I wanted to read on the dial paper. so that I can be enriched in that. I wasn't able to read all of it. But if it's a discussion like this, then I get to hear from you who read on that, and I also tell you about what I read on the Communist Manifesto. Someone tells us about the Libertarian, and then we tie all of it in with its direction in lecture. So I wait for some other comments quickly. Pa. We haven't started with our substantive content today, which is fine insofar as we are using the time profitably. We still have next week. So if you're not ready, we'll end. Everyone will go and read, come and do a in-class assessment on the topic content. Okay, I'm waiting. Put your hand up if you want to make a comment, please. So we are on record though. If someone is playing this back, the person will only hear a blank the whole period. Even as Asante, go ahead, say. Asante Mensa.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. So please, Doc, mine is a question about Raw's theory of justice.
What has it done, sir? Go ahead.
So I want to understand why Ross argues in the laws of the people that the difference principle must not be applied universally. I'm speaking on the backdrop of him also arguing that the society must benefit the less marginalized, but when it comes to the international or universal application, he argues against that.
He argues against what? I don't know what you are claiming that he said. That you are asking a question
of. The difference principle.
Yeah.
I'm saying he argues that the difference principle must not be applied universally.
Why did he? Do you understand that, sir? If he said that at all, do you understand what he means by that, please? Before you question why he's saying that, but do you understand what he means by you shouldn't apply it universally if he said that wherever you read it?
Yeah, so my understanding is that he was saying for natural resources, let's say Ghana, we have gold, bauxite, and then the rest, and then some other country has got no resources like that. We don't have to say the other country is less marginalized, so we should help the other country like you would do in the society for the less marginalized. But I think he said when one country is in distress, you help the country to reach a certain pedestal, and then you leave to come to where they were previously, and then you leave them. But you don't do it like you are doing it individually, like on the individual basis. I think that's what I understand by it.
Okay, granted. Let's grant that. What is the problem with that you don't understand, say?
I'm asking why he argued that because he was talking about the less marginalized in the society.
Yes.
And then when it comes to the international or universal stage, he says it must not be applied that way.
This is a very important exposition you are giving us. But why do you think? Let's say that we don't know why he said. But why do you think he would say that? Let's try to rationalize why. Let's try to rationalize. Why would he say that you can do that for the internal, where we are dealing with internal matters? Like if we're talking Ghana, we can do that. Or if we're talking philosophy department, we could do that. But the philosophy department cannot go and say, I'm going to help social work department because I think that they lack so and so and so. And you leave your home and then you go. If it is something that you can do to help you too, but you don't make it your burden. I think that is what I gather from what you are saying. I want to know why you think. Why do you think he would put that caveat there and put that limitation on how much?
I think he argues that way because I think he's trying to say the destiny of a country lies in the hands of the people we've elected to man the affairs of the country.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the help you want to go and give will be coming from somewhere. People who
Yes.
have given you that help to do something for them. You see that? So you cannot help
Yeah.
beyond a certain limit without creating a problem with those whose resources you are using to do that. So America may
Mm.
want to intervene and help Ghana, quote unquote, or Ghana may want to intervene and help America now that they are hungry and we have food.
Yeah.
But there's a limit to how much we can do that. I mean, just rationalize it that way. You don't need to let it bother you. We cannot say we will help to the point that now we'll eat into our own resources. You see, so you can,
Yeah.
if that is even in trying to balance the equation, applying the difference principle, you cannot do it beyond a certain level. You cannot go, and even for the individual one, the same will apply. It's just a matter of degrees. Okay, the state
Okay.
cannot pay your fees like what we are trying to do with free SHS. That the
Yeah.
concept is very good, but now we are struggling. You see that you
Mm.
pay the
Yeah.
fees, people will determine what they want to eat. They eat to morning, afternoon, evening. You have to give them sandals. Everything is being paid for. Hey, who will pay for that one? You take the money and resources from some people who may not even attend the schools that are on the free SHS. See that? Maybe my children don't do the free SHS thing. I pay a private institution to take care of their needs and to pay, to teach them. I buy their uniforms. I do everything for them. But I pay tax that is used to do free SHS and other things
Mhm.
for that matter. Okay, so it can be problematic. And here we are now. It's difficult to sustain that, even within and where we are dealing with the individual matter. So perhaps that is the question uh, Ross would want to help us look at, especially when it goes outside of the defined region. Okay, but that was
All
a
right.
good exposition that will help others. Thank you very much, Ebenezer.
Uh,
Great. I still want to take some commentary on what we've done so far, questions, expositions, and then what is ahead of us, especially so that we move. If people haven't read, and I sense that on the democracy, people haven't read at all, then I'll just quickly walk you through what I put on the slides and then give you the opportunity to go and read. Then we can have a very extensive discussion on it and end our sessions nicely. God willing, next week. Okay, so let's have someone read what I see on the screen. Um, what I say, what I see, what I put on the screen on, where is it? On interrogating the concept and practice of democracy. That's the last topic. We see on our course outline Robert Dahl, Kwame Gyekye, and Joseph Osei's papers. They are all there, but our focus will be on the Gyekye one. Whilst you read around the Robert Dahl and the Osei, especially the Dahl one, is a seminal paper you can get online. Just get a trust of what he was saying in his paper. Very key things that he says there, and on what democracy is. And so I don't want to give you an inkling on that. And then we can see what Kwame Gyekye's paper is doing. The Traditional Modernity Kwame Gyekye book is at the library. Several of copies of them are there. Okay, just find that book and get to the chapter 4 and read that closely. He's making a case that I hope we are able to interrogate. So someone can read this for me, and then I'll give that just about. Let's see. No hand up, please. Anyone wants to read for us? Keep your hand up, please, respectfully. So I'll call you. Okay, so I see Tanti. Afterwards, I see Ladina, Jacqueline, and Shun. I think there are three of you. Quite a number of hands now. So let's take Tanti first. And then Cliffy, I see you. I see Frank. We'll work that way. Queenie's hand also shut up. Tanti's hand is down now. Then I can take uh, what are the hands? Then there's also Patricia. Let's take Edu Emmanuel or Queenie Ahunya. If you have a good background, any one of you can read. Edu Emmanuel, go ahead.
Okay. Please, Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, please. I can hear you, sir.
Okay, I'm reading.
Go
So,
ahead, sir.
what could account for the failure of African democracies to rule in accordance with formally established procedures bequeathed to the African people by their colonial rulers? Capacity to operate an alien system, lack of certain moral or dispositional virtues or attitudes, moderation, patience, incorruptibility, military interruption,
Okay, thank you very much, sir. What do you make of what has been read? When you see the Gyekye paper, please play back. Class, you may play back. When I say playback, just engage the city campus discussion first and foremost as a guide, because I'm trying to mute all, oh, and then I've ended up muting myself. Somebody's background is noisy. I don't know if it's Emmanuel Idris. Okay, so you may want to engage that content and then let that guide you to prepare for a compulsory essay question. You see, sometimes students want to know why you're belaboring a certain point before they 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 take you that well. You always take us seriously. That's one day we granted, but then they give a certain degree of attention to what you are saying. Because you write a compulsory essay question, you see, on this topic in tandem with the result paper, and you see traces of the social contract in that same question. It's about 4 or 5 in one questions. So that one will be compulsory. And then the other one will be where you choose an option. Okay. So read the paper. It has an African twist. It's trying to deal with a very important issue of what? How our democracy in Africa, especially, is going. This is 2022. We are still registering coup d'etats. It's disheartening. People don't see. Is it that? So there goes the question on the screen that your friend read. Is it that what is accounting for quote and unquote the seemingly failing democracies that we are running in Africa? The top of Ghana here, we are in Ghana, so just upstairs, Burkina Faso has experienced a coup d'etat. It's not far away any longer, very close to home. Our Guinea folks, Mali, within Ghana, the supposed secessionist, group, we don't want to be part of Ghana, or we are not part of Ghana. We have never been part of Ghana. Those undertones and people feeling an unrest. They don't want the way they are being governed, and it is not just economic. Sometimes it's just also what a matter of the governance itself. Okay, what accounts for this seeming failing democracies across? What we mean is where the formally established procedures that have been bequeathed to the African people by the colonial rulers, they seem not to work. What is accounting for that? Is it a capacity that the African leadership lack, generally speaking, when it comes to an alien system? Is it because the system is alien? So I've given some nice examples there that you can see if you play the recording on the channel. Maybe I should just share that one also, where it was quite comprehensive on your group site. Then you can find it on the academic channel. Either way, okay. Then it can guide your reading of the text proper in preparation for our discussion. Intensely on it. Yes, but think about it. Is it because the system is alien? When I say the system, this ballot box parliamentarian thing, you don't know your MP, you have to find him, or he has to say things for you that you haven't told him to go and say at parliament, or you told him but I didn't say he should say it that way. You know how we seem to be detached from the governance. Okay. Is it the system of governance that is alien to us? This is in Gyekye's paper that I've referenced to, the chapter 4 of the book Traditional Modernity. That chapter discusses what? The traditional, where is it? Traditional values. I put it somewhere. Oh dear, where is it? Okay. Traditional values and features of democratic practice in, where is it? Let me read exactly what I see there so that when you go, you can find it. It's the chapter 4 of that book. How has it titled? The traditional political ideas, values, and practices. Traditional, they are traditional political ideas, values, and practices. He extrapolates from the Akan, what he calls the Akan contest. and then imposes that onto the African setting and things that is similar to most of the African traditional settings we have. There were good things there. But before we get to the good things, why is it that Western Africa is experiencing this? Ghana has its own series of unrests politically and governance wise. Okay, what is accounting for this? Is it that the system is so alien to us, and so the people that are manning it do not have the capacity or the ability to run that kind of government? Is that the question? It's a big question. That's why they are in red. It's not a statement, it's a question. People have asked that. Or is it just a lack of moral or dispositional virtues in the people that are put into power to run or govern by the system that was passed on to us? See, is it that they don't have the moral aptitude? Okay, they are corrupt, they are impatient. When you give them money to run the state, or when you put them in charge of the state resources, they will do family and friends, maybe, or they will gather everything and go and save somewhere. Is it a matter of attitude and disposition that the people that are labeled African leadership, okay, have? Some think it is so. It's not a system. It's not the same system being run everywhere. Everybody goes to the ballot box. Are people fighting and killing themselves, and are parliamentarians lifting chairs to hit each other all over the world? They're heated argument, but do people sit on others and be shaking? Hey, you see what we parliament? But the African one, that's what the chairs held at each other. It's almost a norm now. I shudder to think of that happening at a traditional, setting. They might have their own issues as well, but is that how it is done? So could it be that it's not just a capacity not to operate an alien system, says some people, but rather it's just a lack of moral or dispositional virtues. The people are just not good enough, morally speaking. It's not the system. Okay, some have that diagnosis. Look at people, we are diagnosing what could be the problem. Then others think, no, 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 no. There's so many military interruptions that we've had. It could be that one rather. In the Africans, everybody wants to rule. And the people who want to are autocratic. They do the master, the gun to your throat, get off the seat and say, look at the recent one. They're all good it has. Something that is the bane of our seemingly failing democracy, because we don't have a continuity. The people in power are always minded. They want to build more protection around themselves because there is a certain sense of insecurity. You can be ousted out of power. You can do things that work and stuff like that. Okay, you see these. What do you think? You, the thinker that is reading this with me, we are discussing. What do you think? So when you do a proper reading, we can discuss. So please read the second slide. What is the proposed solution that comes across strongly in the Gyekye paper?
Are there not viable political structures in the traditional political past that can be forged in the fairness of the African's own tradition of political rule that can be considered democratic? The rule of the people, by the people, for the people. We the people.
Very good. So if you saw what your friend just read, there's been the suggestion, and Gyekye wants to agree with that line of thinking that perhaps we have to have a rule, a governance system that the people identify with. They call it this, and it is for them. It is by them, and it is constituted of them. The rule, the governance must have the local coloration. We, the people, must be the origin of the rule. It is for themselves, it is by them, and it is constituted of them. Remember Rousseau. So I am the government, ruling who? Myself. For whose benefit? For me. Until we get to that, the so-called system of rule may be labeled a democracy, but may not really be what it is. Democracy etymologically means what? Democratia, democratia. The people's rule. Rule of who? Themselves. By who? By themselves. For who? For themselves. So is it possible to own the system of rule? It has to be something that is evolved by the people for themselves. Even if they borrowed it, they have to own it. If the people don't see it as their thing, they will call it abayejuma, government work. You don't carry it on your shoulder. This is in Gyekye's book, what I've referenced. Government work. It's not your own. It's your uncle's work that you are dying over. That's what people tell. So the tap is flowing because of that break in the holes there. No one will work. No one will even call people to come and do it. If you call to the one that is supposed to come and fix it, will tell you, I've closed. I have closed. Why? Because it's not his. He doesn't see that it is his thing. It is for them, Aban. And the word Aban in Akan, because we are looking at Gyekye's rendition, Gyekye is trying to project something. So the focusing is mostly on Akan. You have to bear with that. Okay. The word Aban, if you read Gyekye's book, is telling you that it is a fortified place. It's reminiscent of what? What happened during the colonial regime. So that is a stronghold, Aban, bounded, fortified, detached from the people. It's not the same as the Ahimfie, where everyone could walk in and go and see Nana. All they need is to make sure that they got to Nana at the right time. That's all. But they can walk in and make their case known. It's different from Gabo, the open space where everyone was allowed to speak their mind and talk and have their opinion. And there is a lot of concern. I will get to that in a minute. Seeking people's view. A Gabo, look at the name. A Boja. Dra means what? Market, a marketplace of ideas. So when I say Muku Guaba, I'm going to the market. And so that symbolized what was done. The Boja meant everyone. Look at what happens at the market. You bring yours, I bring mine. We sell and buy ideas. That is reminiscent of what people would have called today as parliament. Not autocratic, not I have come to pour onto you. You don't say some. Insofar as I won the ballot box competition. You see? So Gyekye says the orientation as a proposed response to the supposed failing democratic systems of government that we are running now. Where did we get them from? Passed on to us post-colonial. How do we deal with it? We have to think of, this is what your friend read, forging. Look at the words very well. These are Gyekye's words that we are learning. So you cannot do a critique of him or agreement with him or whatever. Okay. It's a forging. You forge it. It's a welding. You weld it. It means that there might be different ways of doing, but you put them together to form a tapestry, a very nice stuff put together. We need a welding, a forging, putting it together of what? Of our past in the life of today. Why? Because the people must evolve it. So there is a way, this is the case is going to make, of course, there's a way that governance was done. Traditional political values, virtues, that he, Gyekye, argues had what? Democratic features, what we currently call democratic features, were very prominent then, except that he's not making a case for a wholesale return to the past. No, he will agree with that. So the emphasis is on a critical return to the past. It's not everything in the past that can be wholesale, can be adapted into the present wholesale. No, that is the point. The point is there are certain virtues, certain aspects of our past. So viable political structures. I mean, people will come and tell them something and now say, okay, you go and ask the old lady and we should feedback in this. It was not abrupt. Abrewa was who? The people say, or mine say, that's what they'll tell you. The people say, you want to ask a simple question, you say, this one we have to sleep over it. You know, Sumia, everyone wants to make an input. So we have heard all that has been said. Let's listen to Openi Ejekumtu, the Openi Ejekumtu. Let's listen to Openi Nimfa, the Openi Nimfa. What matter? These are observations made by empirical anthropologists, empirical studies, people who are studying cultures empirically. Some are not even African, who observe and say these people, before they make a simple decision, will talk and talk and talk. Why? Because dialogue was central. You see, by the time you talk things over, not angrily, but you talk it over, you would hear the viewpoint of the supposed opponent and realize that perhaps he's not disagreeing. He's also looking out for this part of the matter. Okay, can we arrive at a consensual position? You see, so dialogue, free speech, and there we go. That will be the next slide. Look at it. I've almost done every work in the introductory part for you. It will set you off nicely when you get the book, and you should always do that. Okay. See, so Gyekye's argument is that the past, a critical return to the past, can show us certain values that are correctly labeled as what? Democratic, which currently we may think we are using, but in the frame of a different cultural system, like what we are running now, you may be running something that is alien to you. Look at America, Britain. Do they run the same kind of democracy? No, it's a democracy, but they are not the same. America doesn't have a king or a queen, but Britain or the English do, plus something else. Everybody is doing what fits their home without undermining the central tenets, which we would want to see in that. So see Robert Dahl's tenets, what he thinks are crucial to a system that calls itself democratic. And he already tells you, I heard that from the city campus lady who set us up. She did a beautiful job, Rosina. He says that Dahl tells us we may not get a perfect democratic system, because that is an ideal that we aspire at. But even if it's not perfect, what we are practicing is always better than autocracy, oligarchy, and the others. That is very important and input. And he even says a very effective democratic system is a recipe for development. Perhaps when the people do not feel a part of I've told you, the person will not go to the ministries to work. He will go there physically and mark that he's present. But delivery, that I'm doing the work to get an output for our business. If I see it as our business, family business, my business. Look at the effort. 12 midnight, the person is still working and calling, uncle, please, the shipment hasn't come because the person owns it. I didn't say they see the thing as it is ours. The person sees that this thing is for us. It is for us. Yeah, the word not what then as it will feel ye. The people see that way. Until that happens, they will call it a benjuma. Government work, government school, government hospital. You see, so it is not for us, it is for them. And look at the name, Aban. Telling you how they reference the castle then, the place that slaves were kept. That's how they see the Aban. So it is in the language which expresses the conception, the way the people are conceiving of what is happening. So if you told me that Nitaki says, Nitaki, I use that to represent, our venerable chiefs in Accra. Okay, so I don't know who is the chief now, but I just use that. I want a Ghanaian. Ni says we are not going out, or we are not playing whatever music for this period because the gods have to have, I'm just like we are having now in Accra. Look at the degree of obedience. And even if you don't believe it, you obey it out of what? Veneration. You respect the authorities that said that. Do we have the same level of that for our traffic light? Which is for our buy. DVLA. Road wedding. Everybody's bypassed. You see, because the thing is not ours. It's like some people's thing that we have been asked to obey. And so the orientation is an issue. How can we orient ourselves so much so that we'll see that Ochimai, yeah, we share my name say. The person is saying, this is Ochimai, this is our, this is for us. We are Achim. We can't watch for Achim land to go bad. The person owns it. He doesn't have to be the chief or the king or the linguist to do what he has to do for the nation that he identifies with to flourish. He doesn't want to be. Who is going to vie for? Who is opposition leader for Asante Hennes so-called party? No. So when you see Redu saying a plea for a non-party democracy, and he also appeals to the Akan system, there is something that these very important philosophical minds are making. They are making a very important point, which, as we also deliberate on and improve on it, should help us think, people, and couch a system that we can call a democracy, our rule of ourselves, our rule of ourselves, not what someone defines for us and insists that that is what democracy is. And then we are struggling, maybe, says the first group of people, to practice it. I told your friends in City Camp, if you gave me a 4-wheel drive, it has all the speed, all the encomiums, but I cannot drive it because I don't know how to do it. But I'm very good at my bicycle. You see, you have given me perhaps a very good system, but I cannot connect it. I don't feel a sense of belonging to it. I don't know how to do it. You are teaching me, but when I step on it, instead of accelerating, I am braking because the thing is too overwhelming. When I sit inside, even the AC blow and I say, hey, wow, I can move. Then it would have been better to go with my bicycle, which I'm very conversant with. I can skid my way to shum. Slowly but steadily, I'll make progress. Rather than trying to wear shoes that are not your size. Designer, yes. Well branded, no question about that. But it's not my size. For the race I'm running. Let me tell you, you're going to get me Italiano block shoes. What am I going to do? How will I race? But the same thing will fit the other person who needs that for his snow. He works in snow. That is fine for him. So it's a lot of figurative speaking. And so the people, these are venerable, great minds that talk and they tell you, we are not asking you to go and pack everything, hook, line, and sinker from the political past and bring it to the future. No. So Gyekye's book, Tradition and Modernity, is a whole discussion of that. He makes a case for a critical Sankofism all the time. You're going back for it, yes, Sankofa, but you have to put on a critical lens to strain out what can be used in the life of today. What cannot be used, you leave it there. It's not a blunt return to the past kind of talk. It's a critical Sankofis. And so if there's something that is worthy of application from the past that you must bring into the present, you have to go get it. And if the present has something good that it is giving us, we have to pick it. But it's not everything in the modern that is useful for a contest, especially in our political discourse. And the chapter 4 now that then focuses on the politics within the discourse of the tradition or the traditional and the modern. I want you to get that. So look, what does he think is useful in the cultural past? There's so much in the text. I've tried to summarize it this way. That are democratic features that we currently call democracy. You can see what Dal says. One of them is the will of the people on your screen now. It is the people's will, or mine say. It is your mind that says, not some catch up will be. No, not a boss. And even when you hear Nana says, council says, council representing what you would call, if you like, a parliament of a kind. And that council doesn't go telling Nana things from how they feel. It trails all the way to the family unit. Even as at now, those who are a bit conscious of that, we go for family meetings. Some do it every weekend, some do it every month. the family. So there is a unit, the nuclear unit that meets with the extended family unit that meets with the bushia, the bigger one. Then it throws all the way that way. So there's representation before the thing gets to council. It's so clear. There's jabber to discuss and deliberate. If we were doing the traditional one, take note, tradition, what was there? Not the adulterated ones that we are running now in our homes that have become supposedly what modern. So the will of the people, the rule by what popular consent. Yeti mentions that also. Popular consent, popularity, what the plenty people consent to. It might not be necessarily popular sovereignty. It's not everybody that is sitting on the throne. No, because there's royalty, just like there's royalty in the English monarchy. No one contends over that. In fact, we know who is next in line, okay, or we have a fair idea of who will be next in line if the queen passes on to glory. The point I'm making is, but we still call it a democracy. Is it not a democracy? It's a democratic system being run, even though there's monarchy there. That's why you want to be careful how you label, folks and the system they are running. The political science students amongst us, you should take these ideas and query them, interrogate them. Which one are you calling autocracy? If the people chose it, why do you call it autocracy? Why would you call something democratic? If all it did was to put ballot boxes there and people just have to fight and make sure that their papers are more than the other person's papers, and we got 50.1, and there are 49 people who say no, does it not matter what the 49 say about a discussion that is ongoing? Just because one extra ballot sheet got into the other box, that didn't get into this. And so then the decision making at the department or that office or parliament or wherever would all would want to do is how many people say aye. Those who are for it say no, say aye. Those who are not for it say no. Then the whole group will all say no. Okay, the ayes have it. We have closed 11. Pump. No, that's problematic. How would the people feel that they are part of the government? You see that? So the will of the people says Kabejechi. And so you can now interrogate it. You are the philosophical mind. Say, which will of the people? In which Africa? In which traditional Africa? Please, they shouldn't bring themselves. You are allowed to do your own querying of that and support that with evidence. But this is the case he makes. So rule by popular consent, the freedom of expression of opinions. You can read the Titoli paper. I mean, read the Gyekye, you see the references there. It said that in the African contest, people would talk and talk. They'll sit under the big tree over their palm wines and talk over a matter until they agree. This is the testimony of an observer who is non-African. So, and you and I know, sometimes we talk almost to the point of inaction. We are not doing anything. I think they'll say, whatever. The pillow gives us wisdom. So we'll take the issue to bed and then, God willing, tomorrow we'll meet, like the way the court adjourns matters. All in the bid to make sure that we have heard the different opinions. See, Kwesi Redu's consensual democracy. I said the plea for a non-party democracy. That's what he meant. It's not that the people can have opposing views, but party in the sense as we run it in our so-called democracies that we are doing now, which is what we have anyway, but we can improve it. That's the argument. Partistic. This one is NDC. This one is MPP. This one is QRS. This one is the WTP. So we cannot, my people, we can't have a national agenda. But okay, after all is said and done, what about the one that fits into our collective interest as a collective, as Rousseau? No. See how it can be very bloody for certain nations. Thank God for the peace we have in Ghana. So unlimited power of the chief. This is the chief. And the chief is supposed to be the highest of political authority. I showed you, I read from my thesis and I referenced some stuff to your colleagues. So when you listen to their recording, you may look out for that. Chiefs that were disturbed for excessive taxing in Asante Kingdom. This is recorded. So IJ and the other gentlemen I referred to in the thesis are there. You can also read them and see where they got their information from. 3 different chiefs stood. All we need to do is take off your sandals. That's all. No fight matter. If you are not doing what you held a state sword and promised us and pledged to do, the chief gives you a rendition of that. You can even see what is in the swearing of oath. He captures that in that reference I've given you, showing you that the whole embodiment of the chief's power, according to him in the traditional setting proper, is granted by the people. So Omani if the Omai has a problem with you, you have a big problem. And then checks on abuse of power. I showed you that. The Nigerian one would give you, I think, a parrot egg or something. I'll check again. Something, which is really is suicide. You take it and you will die. It's a way of telling you that don't come and mess around with us. I'll look at my thing again and then share that. All these, I'm saying that all these are showing you how much, according to the chief, the traditionally, I think it's Yoruba. This is what I saw, and the person that I read that from is Sitoli, 1959, in the bargain. It's in the the surname is Sitoli. That's okay. The research was done in 1959. That is just years back. Okay, the page 98. You will see this reference there. She says that whereas the Sarah of Senegal adopted a distinctive drum beat to signal the end of a king's reign, the Yoruba of Nigeria demanded the king's suicide by a symbolic gift of parrot's eggs. That is how you were understood. If you were messing around with what the people have mandated you to do, and you take the power and then you decide to use it the way you wanted to, the people had so much sovereignty. Let me look at for the Ashanti kings that were distilled quickly. I'll read that also for you. I'm reading from portions of my study, but I refer you to the original source that I took those from. Okay, so I said the Ashanti of Ghana, for instance, distilled 3 kings in 1799, 1874, and 1883. These are all supposed to show you Ghana gained independence in 1957. So these are before independence. Okay. First, Asir Kwame Pinyin, for among other reasons, absenting himself from Kumasi, the capital, and failing to perform his religious duties during the Adai festival. He was distilled. You were put there to serve the people. Stop going for conferences all over the place when there's flooding here. By the time you come back, we have EU Nasim Papua. The sandals have been removed. Okay. Then the second one, where did I get that? Where is it? The second, Otumfuo Nana Kofi Karikari for extravagance, among other failings. That's what is documented by this author. He was so extravagant. Hey, they distill you. In other words, we take your stool from you because you were too extravagant. Oh, yeah, it's them too much with our resources. Sorry, so take you off. This is what is recorded that I'm also referencing. I'll show you the reference in a jiffy. And then third, Otumfuo Nana Mensah Bonsu. What was his crime? For excessively taxing the Asante people. Hey, 11 woman. Aite, 1991. Buama Wiafi, 1993. These are the authors that have this documented that I reference. The people who told you that traditional authority, did they have, the traditional system, people didn't have a say. It was just some people that were dictating. No, at least not for the Akan system, according to Kwame Gyekye. And so the people's, not the people's sovereignty, sorry, the people's authority, the people had power. They checked on the abuse of power. Is that happening in our current African? Look at Africa, don't look only Ghana. Okay, get a bigger picture. Anyone who wants to say, oh, Africa is okay, what is happening with the coups? Do you see what happens when the coups and how the people celebrate the people? Those who jump the streets are the people. The grassroots, some would say, they celebrate. Why? You see, why? Meanwhile, whoever, in most cases, whoever was seated on the throne was democratically, that's what we say, democracy. So democratically voted for, ballot box. Yet, when the military man pulls a gun, and we don't wish that for any nation, let alone Africa, for all that we have suffered. Okay, the depth of our colonial hate is deep. Always remember that. Other nations have been colonized too, yes, and they've gone past it. But the nature of the system that Africans, generally speaking, run, we are more communal, we are relational, we are compact. So the head is deep. And we love people. We love people almost to the point of being naive, generally speaking. See, so when you especially Ghana, oh God, oh this, and then before long, extremely religious. Go and see what our African thinkers have said about the extreme emphasis on the religious, without allowing question asking, critical ability, to the point that even mosquito bite is attributed to a witch. You see that? So before long, we are quote and unquote deeper and deeper and deeper sinking in what? The effects of a supposed colonial regime that almost every nation suffered from. Why is it that you haven't recovered from yours? Because in recovering to, we're giving a tax master kind of a system to run. Then the world has been told that is the system. That is what it must be. Meanwhile, others who even have a supposed prestige and power run their kind of democracy, their kind of economic system, which still respect the very fundamental ones that everyone must respect, but they tailor make it to fit their system. People, what will go wrong if we're doing chieftaincy? Perhaps that is the question. Whose chief will be the chief of Ghana? But do we even need a chief of Ghana? What will go wrong if we're running a federal system? Nigeria is doing that. America does that. These are the questions. So we have to ask and then we interrogate. And Kabajeshi says, go back to the traditional past. Consensual posture, a posture that is interested in what? Consensus. Now that is a big word, almost corrupted by some, but there's still value and virtue there. You may be right. Even 98 people may have voted for a view, but the two left said, oh, instead of the hospital, they will prefer a market. Don't say, well, 98 people said hospital, so how about the two? Kant told you, you do not use people as a means to an end. There's something they are also bringing across. The two are two parliamentarians, but they may be representing two, constituencies which have people there. If it is the people's rule, their people, the general will. Remember, not the will of all, the general, the collectively held will. What can you do to mitigate the concern or to meet at least halfway through the concern that the other two acts? If it cannot be done, how is it being handled in a way that you don't beat me and then you prevent me from crying? If we can't even meet it for them, it should be presented in a way that makes them go home, even if sad, not angry. But when we do the ballot box, I call it the ballot box to cover all the things that it comes with. Then I have a certain sense of, I got it covered. You may have all you want to say. You see, the minority can have their say, but the majority will have their way. That is problematic. That is a recipe for what? Half rule is not a full rule. People are not ruling themselves. Someone, a Leviathan, whatever version of a Leviathan it is, will be ruling, and that one will attract a Leviathan what? Ousted out of office. Okay, so Gyekye makes all those points, and I would want you to read and find. You see, I've done all the talking because I know you haven't read. If I look at the posture of it, people haven't read, and you can't do anything about it. You can't impose. Call upon me. I can't. How about that? Say something. So I'll do the talking. Don't worry. But you do the reading for next week. Okay. Just the last slide on that one. What objection has been raised to this posture, which says there's something in the traditional past of the African political system that can be useful for the practice of today? There's been an objection. There are several of them, but Gyekye's book picks on Simiyu, his line of reasoning, to show the various ranges of objections that have been raised around this. What is in the traditional past of Africa that we should go engage politically? Some even say, there's nothing there. Nobody should. If there was something and another culture came to override them, I said, let's look for this is the system that is running and moving the world now. Let's do our democracy well and stop these corrupt people, and let's use parliamentarian this and that, blah 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 blah. So this man's reaction captures that. He says the traditional was hierarchical and stratified. I mean, some people were born to rule forever. So if he finishes, his son takes over, his son's overseer or something. The point is, that not what is happening in other regimes that are non-African, that I've referenced. Has that made the system any less a democracy? Think about it. If so, then Gyekye takes each of the supposed assumptions that he thinks underlines this gentleman's critique and his claim that we shouldn't go back to the past for anything. There's nothing there to give. You see Kutonji's reaction as well. I want you to just read. I'm almost doing all the work for you. Look at Pauline Kutonji, a venerable African thinker also, has a certain repulsiveness to the Sankofa tradition. Of course, Gyekye agrees partly with him because he doesn't think there should be just a Sankofa, go back for it, a return for it. You can't go back for a wholesale in it. Gyekye reacts. Gyekye disagrees with, say, the inheritance system, the so-called kind of inheritance system that doesn't allow for creativity, ingenuity, and hard work. Such a lazy system that would say, for example, that wofa because uncle day, so the lady is not even looking at the guy she's going out with, whether he can take care of her or not, whether they can have a future together. No critical examination because uncle's properties are there. Who is uncle? Her mother's brother. So when the mother's brother is working hard, if you will inherit you inherit that uncle, then there's no incentive to work hard. Meanwhile, this uncle is married, having his own wife and children. The wife is breaking the back to take care of home, even work hard and bring resources home, only for uncle to pass away one day, for the sister to come and say, I've come to inherit because wafa, that wafa inheritance, uncle inheritance. It's problematic. Kwame Gyekye is an Akan, but he resists that. He argues against that strongly, that it doesn't encourage ingenuity. You, the woman, you and your husband should create your own properties for your children. So that's just for you to see that he's not saying go back and get everything in the traditional past. Because some are reprehensible, some are not worthy, some are not viable, functional, useful in the life of today. But in the same way, you can't also do a wholesale adoption of everything modern, so to speak, everything new. Why? Because it's not everything that has been has been jettisoned in the past that is worthless. Some of the new things are corrupting us. There's no, don't let me go there. The moral codes. There is, now grandma is passing with a heavy load, she'll go with it. In the car, if you joke, grandma, young brother, youthful brother will fight you for space. These things, and all you can get a lot of that from that traditional modernity. Very resourceful book for academic work and for socio-political talk, especially with an African coloration. Okay, so you don't want to interpret him as saying that go for a wholesale return to the past, but then the virtuous aspect of the cultural past, he wants to insist that we should go for it. And on that note, I have done a good rendition for you. You want to go and read the text? People, read it all, because I've set my compulsory essay question. It might be 35 marks. I just want to moderate it a little bit more and see if I need to make it 35. Then you do a second essay, 15, 1 5, to become 50. Or you do the compulsory question, 30. Then you choose 2 optional questions, 10 each, to make 3 essays. That would be so much work. But then it means that the demands on those 2 other essays, if we did it that way, would not be as much as the demand for the very, compulsory essay question that will carry so much mark. Why will it carry so much mark? Because of the demand of the question. It would have expected that you have covered this discussion. You would have known some social contract. You would have known autonomy, and at the same time the collective self. So you see, then even a bit of, if you look at how the question, as I have it so far, is, you would see a bit of some civil disobedience there, and why would, and stuff like that. So you can't swear. You can't swear it. But why is it that I'm happy to tell you can't swear? It means that your work that you've done so far will not be in vain if you have done any at all. If you haven't, then you find yourself wanting. Don't worry so much about grades and marks and exams. It's important that you focus on that, yes, because that's why you are studying. But let me do the worrying about that. Okay, once you focus on knowing content. So when you become an assistant at parliament, or you aspire going to the law school, get there or something, or you're writing a long essay, PhD, an MPhil on roles, what have you. I'm currently supervising a long essay, at least one of them, an MPhil, a PhD. And these discussions, there's some pessimism there, there's some roles in the content there. Someone is doing, some gender bit a little. And so if your foundations are not strong, you may think that you've swept something and gone. You still got your A and went because you did a maneuvering. Reality will hit you. When you're applying for an MPhil somewhere and then they want to know what you did, so and so and so, write a quick exam, and the talk is on Rawlsian something, or Rousseau's general will, and how you think that you can contribute to Ghana's democracy. If you see that you are, I say, yeah, Rousseau, and I say, yeah, Rousseau, yeah, I remember Rousseau. Now it's who? You see, you're a journalist or something, renowned one at that. You should have certain basics. If you said you did philosophy and you did social and political theory, that's my target. So when we engage, we don't want you having, quick fixes here and there. The grades you will do fine. So remember that I've done some continuous assessment exercises, and you've done quite a number of feedbacks, first the essays, then the class ones. What I use them, and like I've done, if you have sat in my lecture from level 100, is to augment what you do when the assessments are released and you are not too okay with the continuous assessment. That's why it's a continuous assessment. So you will do fine. Let me do the grading. Someone sent me a message, said, "Oh, please, beg you, ask for the final exam. Don't give us multiple choice. We don't like we don't like multiple choice." Because I said, but you people say you want multiple choice. That one there is it gives some of us even rest. Multiple choice. A, B, C, D, then the system will grade it for you. People say, well, MCQ, multiple choice. Oh, doc, we don't. Now after the IA, people say, no, we don't want a multiple choice. You give us essays. Let us write. By all means, if it's over 20, we'll get something paid. So it's a good sign that my interim assessments, I believe, are always a little tougher than the final exam, because they assess you, they shake you to see, so you check yourself and find where you are standing, and then it guides you to go back and fill the gaps. But you will do fine with the grading there, because you have some in-class exercises that you've done, the essays, the group work. I'm grading the group work. Some of you would have seen your mark already. Some didn't participate. I think I've done for up to group 13. Apart from group 7, I had to exclude the person that wasn't included. You worry yourself when you put up those posturing, because that 10 mark plus some 10 or 12 that you've earned in the exercises that we did in class would add to your IA mark. You see, maybe you got 22/30 in the IA, or 14. or 18 or 29. If you got 10 from the essay that you wrote yourself, and then 10 from the group work, that will be the complete raw mark for your over 55 0. Then the in-class participation exercise, take sheets of paper. I have them recorded. That can add someone, you can work out a 10% to add to that, so that you would be bridging the gap created. That is if you didn't get a perfect score in your IE. You will be bridging that gap to make you get to be a 43 over 50, 45 over 50, 50 over 50. Because you have extra from the extra work you have done in class. It is still your work. Where should I put it? You earned it. But some people don't have any of those. Group work too, they won't do group work that you would just virtually depend on the expertise of your colleague. So whilst he or she is bringing the ideas, you are also hearing and you are also typing or something. So you have still contributed something. Then you get your 10 marks there and learn from your colleague, at least through the discussion. That one, you go and participate at Adwata or Kujumansa. So how can it be my fault if that one, 10, no, 0? The individual work, critical sum, you yourself, you should do. You didn't do. I reopened it again, giving me a lot of work. I don't teach only this level. But the only thing is that you won't get a free mark. You will earn it. Otherwise, then why are you in school? You see that? So because we want you to earn it, then we reopen another one. Why? So that those who didn't can have opportunity to do that one and earn their own mark. You won't do the second one. Then I open a third. The person won't do in-class participation exercise. It doesn't have any record. Yet, I used to come and do and get 30 over 30. You got 3. Oh, no, it's not true. There's no 3. You got maybe 10 or 9. So that means over 50, you are 9. If we did an upward shift because of the margins of error and what have you, and we said 10 marks addition for everyone, your level will become 21. And that already shows that then the final exam to you struggle because the content proper, you haven't gone through it. So if your final access to gave you even 20, a liberal 20 over 50, you add to the 21, that's 41. You are reciting. And it is not a lecture. As liberal as she can be, is she that? So I'm just saying all this to help you get your focus right. That is why today I've done all the talking. It's online, it's recorded. You can always play it back. It will guide your reading. Look at the time. It's 5:05. We've done the food session. I mean, it wasn't like Trokan. We've done it. It will guide you to read. Why? So that you can answer the questions and do well. But let me worry about the grading. I'm sure by now you have seen the lab letter after after the release of the results, and you will know how you fared. Generally okay. I can walk you through them. Generally okay. But there's room for you to bridge the gap so that you can make straight A's that you earn, not A's that Dr. Miles gave you. I don't give A's, but I help students and I break my back to guide us on that small content that we have agreed to engage together. For you to do it, even if you learn, you will learn. Take sheet of paper, go to this critical summary. I put this thing here, go and read. If you don't read, I can open an assignment right now. The last 10 minutes left, go to Saka, open. If you like, don't do, I'll grade it. So that way, then constantly, a person is helped to learn. Then we all succeed together. Okay. So God willing, next week, Monday, I pray for grace. We'll meet in person. I'll do all in person next week. The whole of next. I don't know how that can be done. Grace will abound. Just pray for me. We'll meet. We'll do the final discussion after you would have seen Gyekye's write up on this one, and then we'll tie it all in. And I'm sure by then I would have a concrete, information on the nature of the exam. But I suspect I'll do a compulsory one. We have to, otherwise people will not read, and yet they will pass through and get a pass and go. Then later on, when you call them for even an interview to the law school, they don't know theories of justice was written by, and they say Descartes, and go embarrass you. Either you give them. It won't happen. Okay. Thank you very much. Please, do you have any question? Okay, I think that. Oh, any questions? If there's no question, that's fine. If people can. Okay, Cliffy, is there a question? Please ask.
Please, I would like to know where we'll get Gyekye's book so we
Oh,
can
the
read.
tradition, Judge's book, Tradition and Modernity, there is all over the place. So there are various renditions of the departmental library has it. Okay, let me just stop this record so I can see. Just a minute.